Now, a little more on the story I was telling you about at the top of the hour, which is that British counter-terrorism police are making what is in effect an unprecedented appeal to Muslim women in the UK to persuade their relatives not to go to Syria to fight. It follows the deaths of several British men who joined Syria's civil war against President Assad and his forces. And to talk about this with me now is Asim Qureshi, who is Research Director of CAGE, and that is a charity which campaigns for those detained on terrorism charges. Thank you very much for coming in. As an initiative, how would you rate this?
Pretty poorly, actually. Look, the reality is that the Muslim community is already engaged in a process whereby our mosques, our leaders, our scholars are saying to young people, look, we understand why it is you want to go to Syria, and ethically, we don't think there's a problem with even wanting to go out and fight there. But we just don't think it's the pragmatic thing to do. There are so many things that we as British people can do here in the UK in order to help people in Syria, whether it's through aid work, whether it's through lobbying, whatever it might be. There are plenty of things that can still be done over here. So to specifically, target Muslim women and to make this whole thing within the apparatus of the security apparatus really sends a message which is, well, we don't trust you. And what we're going to do is we're going to get your women folk to spy on you, so your mothers, your wives, your sisters, which really is a disenfranchising message. So if they were trying to empower the Muslim community, actually they're sending the opposite message. But also I think it's a little bit disingenuous, because at the same time of sending this message that, look, we want to work with the community, what they're saying to Muslim women as well is that, well, actually, if you don't report on your children, on your husbands, then you could potentially be an accomplice and therefore be prosecuted. So it's very carrot and stick, this entire situation that we have here right now.
There's another version, of course, which is, you'll be familiar with it because it's been over the web today, that it's an inclusive thing. That you say, look, we share lots of the same values. We believe in the same kind of society, and we believe in kind of decent norms of behaviour. And for those reasons, we'd expect you to share some of this information with us. Is that not an option as well?
Look, nobody's saying that if people aren't committing acts that are crimes, that they shouldn't be reported. But right now, we've got a situation where the UK security agencies are trying their hardest to criminalise Syria. You see, there's an assumption that's being made that by virtue of people going out there, they've committed an act of terrorism. That's still untested. The courts are still trying to figure that out right now. And we are pushing back to say that actually it shouldn't be terrorism, but rather it should be seen as an internal armed conflict to which the Geneva Conventions apply where war crimes take place.
40 people arrested for alleged Syria-related offences in the first 3 months of this year, double the number held during the whole of 2013, police figures today.
Yeah.
So you're suggesting that some of those are questionable?
What I'm saying is that they're all test cases. They want to bring Syria within this. Look, if you look at the case of Ahmed Zakayev, okay, back in the early days of the war on terror, the judge specifically in that case said, just because you as Russia want to bring Chechnya as an internal armed conflict within the war on terror, within this context of terrorism, it doesn't mean anything. You can't just go around reclassifying internal armed conflicts into the arena of terrorism. And that's what we're saying as well, that look, we don't necessarily want all of our young people to go out there, okay, even for aid work necessarily, especially very, very young people. Obviously we want them to have long and fruitful lives. But what we are saying is that, look, where people commit crimes, such as kidnapping journalists, such as killing civilians, then there is an entire international body of legislation that should be applied to them where they are prosecuted. War crimes have universal jurisdiction. They can be prosecuted anywhere in the world. Why are we turning this entire young generation of people who are very concerned about Syria, into criminals, into terrorists, when there's no need to necessarily do that? Look, we had plenty of young Muslim men going to fight in Bosnia and Afghanistan during the late 70s, the 80s and the 90s. Not a single one of them came back during that period and committed an act of terrorism here in the UK. Now, even after that, post 9/11, if we look at the 12 terrorism plots and the 66 individuals involved in those, only 2 of those people had fought in a conflict previously, and both of them hadn't done anything in the UK from their experience in Bosnia. It's only when foreign policy came in that they decided that they wanted to do something. All of the other 64 men, those who went abroad to train went abroad specifically because of their political grievance. Look, you had two people on here who speak in or on your show at least anyway, Tony Blair and Benjamin Netanyahu, speak it very much in black and white. What we're saying here, that this is a massive grey area. You're looking at all of those Muslims who went out to fight previously, but if you look at just the numbers post 9/11, Afghanistan and Iraq, young Muslims didn't go out there to fight really, just a handful. But if you look at Syria, we're talking about hundreds now. And there's a reason for that. The reason is that those Muslims don't feel there's a conflict with them being British and then fighting in Syria. In fact, if anything, they say themselves that we thought we were actually on the same side, that the British were supporting the rebels against the Assad regime, that this is a conscionable war. This is something that people all over the world should be getting behind because he's a vile oppressor. You know, violent individuals like Tony Blair only ever speak in black and whites, which is, well, if they're out there, then they're bound to be terrorists. They're bound to come back and do something. There is no empirical evidence to suggest that.
The debate will go on, but Mr. Qureshi, thanks very much for coming in again. Thank you very much.